Welcome to this video, an introduction to the divine will. The divine will promises a new era of God's relationship with his people. And the divine will is not a devotion, but is in the order of a fiat. The fiats, as explained to Jesus to the great mystic Luisa Piccarreta, are three. The first being creation, the second redemption, and the third fiat is the fiat of sanctification, which is what we're discussing in this video. The three fiats can be understood with these words. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. And his will is done on earth as it is in heaven. And this is the answer to the Our Father prayer that the Church has been saying for 2,000 years. This great gift of the divine will allows us to share in God's holy divine will. And it restores the disorder that was introduced to creation by Adam's sin. It promises a new heaven and a new earth. And it is the fulfillment of what St. Paul said to the Romans in chapter 8. All creation moans in anticipation for the revelation of the sons of God. Now let's talk about the recipient of these messages and visions from Jesus and the Virgin Mary, the mystic, the servant of God, Luisa Piccarreta. She was born in Cloak, Italy in 1865, and she passed away in 1947. Her birth happens to be on what would become the Divine Mercy Sunday on April 23rd, 1865. She was a victim soul who was bedridden for over 60 years and subsisted on nothing but the Eucharist for that period of time. Her main writings are the Book of Heaven, the Hours of the Passion, and the Virgin Mary in the Kingdom of the Divine Will. Her confessor was Saint Annibale de Francia, and he happened to read some of the writings to another saint, Saint Pope Pius X, who remarked that they should get on their knees because they were listening to the words of Jesus. Also, another contemporary of Luisa was Padre Pio. And I've often noticed that when God wants to do great works, he gets multiple saints involved. And there's many cases through history of that. Saint Scholastica and Saint Benedict, Saint Francis, Saint Clare, Saint John of the Cross, Saint Teresa of Avila. And there's other examples as well. And through his spiritual children, Padre Pio opened up the Divine Will Center in San Giovanni Rotondo. He also had a few comments that he mentioned to his spiritual children about Luisa Piccarreta. And one is that she was a work of God. Another is that Luisa's light would be seen in the new millennium. And he mentioned that he had read Luisa's Hours of the Passion 4 times. And he was looking forward to the completion of the Virgin Mary in the Kingdom of the Divine Will. Now let us talk a little bit about Luisa's cause. During the course of her cause for beatification, her writings were studied on 2 different levels, one by the local diocese and the other by the Vatican. And they're both separate studies, and in both cases they came to the conclusion that her writings had nothing in them that was contrary to faith and morals. And her 2 writings, the Hours of the Passion and the Virgin Mary in the Kingdom of the Divine Will, they both have multiple imprimaturs from the Church. The Book of Heaven, the first 19 volumes, also has an imprimatur, And this was done long before the study conducted in regards to the cause for beatification. The Vatican also created a biography of the servant of God, Luisa Piccarreta, and it's called The Son of My Will. And it was a very favorable biography. We're looking forward to her beatification continuing and being successful, and all indications indicate that it will be. Let us talk about the actual gift of the divine will itself and what it is. It is the opportunity for us to share in God's holy divine will, and to understand why that is so important is to understand that the divine will itself is part of the essence of God. We are taught that the soul consists of three different faculties, and one is the will, the other is the intellect and the memory. The will itself, when we share that with God, we are sharing in His essence. And because of that, it provides us with an opportunity to achieve a sanctity never before achievable. So there were saints that were perfectly disposed and very holy, but they were never given the opportunity to share in God's divine will. And this was not available until Luisa Piccarreta was given this gift. It's a gift that was not just for Luisa, but it's for all of us. So at this point, the question becomes, how do I acquire this great gift of the divine will? And there's only three requirements, three simple steps. One, you must ask for it and desire it. It's as simple as saying, Jesus, I trust in you, and let not my will be done, but may your will reign within me and be done now and throughout all eternity. And the next is to dispose oneself. And you do that by obtaining more knowledge of the gift, and simply by reading Jesus' words to Luisa in her writings, and relinquishing your own will to do the will of God in your daily life. And the third is to practice it, and it's to form the intention to do your daily acts, whether they be a prayer, whether they be household activities, activities at work, any simple act at all, to do it with the intention of doing it in God's holy divine will. And this is a gift, as I mentioned, for these times. And in these times we find that our Blessed Virgin Mother, she's forming an army. And if you are listening to this video, congratulations, you are being called.